much, Geshe, for joining us again. And we're so happy to have Geshe. Welcome everybody around the world. Good evening in India. Good morning in Americas, Australia. Almost good night. And I hope you're all well. And I hope everybody enjoyed His Holiness teaching this morning. That was very lovely. It was like a talk with the Brazilian groups. So it was very sweet. I thought it was, yeah. And because we have a few people from Brazil here, I think. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Geshe.
Thank you. I take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. Through my practice of giving and so forth, may I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay. So the next line we are going to read says, you need to be unattached and free from clinging so as to avoid letting the rope to your nose slip into the hands of others. That means as much as possible, we should be independent. Because if you consult people too much or depend too much on other people, people will always say something. It's a habit of people, you know. If you consult them, some may be useful, some of them may be not useful, but they will always make different comments. And it is nothing surprising. It is human way that if you are sitting, they will say, why you are not standing up? If you are standing, they will say, why you are not sitting? So people will always have something to comment, you know. So then you will be confused what to do. This person is saying this, that person is saying that, you know. So therefore you should yourself think carefully, plan carefully. And once you thought carefully, then you will be able to follow that line of your thinking. And then gradually, it is so interesting that you will become leader. People will come to consult you. But without your own thinking, without your taking your own stand, if you simply keep on consulting other people, you know, not doing your homework, not doing your exercise, not doing your thinking, then you will always follow people, chase people, and you will become vulnerable to other people's treatments, right? So in this text, it gives an example. For example, even among the small kids, you know, if you observe them, there are many small kids who always run and chase other small kids. There are some who just go a little bit away from the rest of the kids, and he may be doing something on his own, completely absorbed, and then gradually all other kids go around that kid, you see. So it's really something like that. Okay. And then also not only that, when we depend too much or consult other people too much, we are basically consulting not enlightened beings, but we are consulting ordinary people. Okay. When you associate with ordinary people, they will always talk about worldly activities. That is what Shanti Deva said. If you associate with yourself with children means ordinary people, then what you will hear is praising oneself, defaming others, and something that is delightful to live in the ordinary samsaric world. And then all these non-virtuous practices will naturally happen, right? And therefore, at the end of the day, if you depend too much on them, not only you will be destroyed, they will also be destroyed. So in the true sense of the term, they will not be able to benefit you. I mean, I'm not saying that they cannot give you food or clothing. I'm not saying that in terms of long-term benefit. Neither they will be able to benefit you, nor you will be able to benefit them. So it's really like an animal yoked together, you know, who will fall down from the cliff, right? So therefore, we should maintain some distance from ordinary people, especially according to the Kagyu lineage. And of course, not just Kagyu lineage, the Buddhist process of, doing Dharma practice is done in seclusion, in isolation, where you get more time to reflect and discover your inner realities, your inner yearnings, you know. That's what Buddha did. Why he ran away from his beautiful home, from his why he left his kingdom. That's what Milarepa did, right? So therefore, as much as possible, maintain distance from the influence of ordinary people, especially people who are kind of by nature violent, aggressive, without compassion, and things like that. Okay. So therefore, just like animals, he gives this example by saying, avoid letting the rope to your nose slip into the hands of others. This is like the example, brought from the animals. When we put that rope in the nose of the animal, and then we catch the end of that rope, then the that animal has no freedom there. The animal will be led into wherever the owner wants to take. So similarly, if you let other people do what they want, then you have no choice. You will simply have to follow them, right? Okay. So why we are compelled to follow some people? Why? Because of attachment and craving. Because of attachment and craving, whether it's the external enjoyment, or because if you have a lot of attachment to external wealth and so forth, naturally you will have to, consult other people, request other people to give you the job, to give you post and things like that. So that's why today many people are like just simply for earning their life and making money. I personally myself met many people who actually don't like the work they are doing because their boss is not good, the work environment is not good, work ethics is not good, but somehow they have to do because they need that money. And it's not easy to change the job also because perhaps it is what they, what they learned, what they're good. So they're in a quite difficult situation. Now, I myself met a number of people like that, right? So therefore, this is, yes, in the one sense, it is not easy to say because you need really money to live your life. But partly, in many cases, partly because of attachment. The more you run after wealth, the more you run after, money, the more you will become dependent on others. The more you will be told by others what to do, what not to do, and without your choice, without your liking, you will have to do that. And especially in the modern world, if you look carefully, the trainings that we get, the so-called specialization, right, and other trainings that you get, the training itself, that so-called specialization itself, is meant to employ you in a particular department. If you look at how the computer parts are distributed all over the world, computers, whether it is made in America or made in Germany or made in German or wherever, they are more or less same, right? So this computer can be supplied all over the world. And when that computer breaks, the parts that you need to get can be obtained from other parts of the world, So according to the need, they are sent to different parts of the world. Similarly, in the case of human beings also, we are trained in such a way that you are sent into different parts of the world, just like the computer parts. Right? You're trained in that way. So you need to be a little bit careful. Yes, you need training. You need training, of course. Otherwise, you won't get a job. But you should, right from the beginning, get those trainings or try to go into a situation where you don't become a slave of that person or slave of that company or slave of the money. Right? That's important. In some cases, you may be getting a little bit less money, but the environment may be much better, right? The work ethics may be much better. So such choices can be made. But if you simply try to get a job where you get bigger number of money, then the more you will be enslaved. So that is the situation. So therefore, it is difficult to get that independence if you run too much after money, wealth, outside wealth. And then also, the second reason is your attachment to your body, the internal body. You want to respect from other people because of that attachment, because of that craving. The more you respect coming from other people, right? So in order to get that respect, you do all kind of things. Now, what is not there, which people don't do? They do everything. We really become like a doll, where two people are pulling the string, and then you sing and dance according to how the string is pulled. And we use that phrase, pulling the string, right? So if somebody says he's a very good singer, then you will do anything to prove that you're a good singer, be it for your name, be it for your money, things like that. If somebody says that he's, I don't know, I really, don't think there's anything which people don't do in order to get that money and fame and name. I mean, look at the sports people, Recently, I think last year, I think, during that Olympics in Japan, you have seen, I don't remember this name, there's a young lady who's a very good athlete, but there's so much pressure, and she pulled out of that. And many, good people, they supported her. Others are not happy with it because she's going to get a gold tally or something for the country, but she did not do it. So many people are not happy, but many good, wise thinking people, they say, yes, it's a good decision. You may not get gold or anything, but at least you're maintaining your, human dignity, and you are taking more care of your health. So it's happening, you see. We are compelled to, go to the limit. That's why we have so many people suffering from depression, loneliness, and things like that, because of attachment. It may be external attachment, internal attachment. So contrarily, if you don't have that attachment to external material objects and your internal body, respect and things like that, then there's no reason that you need to consult everybody. You need to follow everybody's likes and dislikes. Like Milarepa, he was completely free. All the mountains were completely free for him. Now rest of us live in a place where everything you have to buy. Even if you want to build a small house, you have to buy the land, you have to build the things. For Milarepa, everything was free. I mean, look at the difference. And he may be looking like, from the ordinary people's parlance, he may be like, as even his sister said, that you look like a beggar. So from ordinary people's purview, he may look like a beggar, but he's really roaming like a snow lion amidst the mountain, breathing completely free air, drinking pure water, and living in association with nice birds and animals, which Shantideva highly extolled, that when you move into the forest, you can only hear the singing of the birds, and nobody is saying anything bad against you. But when we live with human beings, some people get pleased with you, some people don't get pleased with you, this, that, and you need to flatter them, you need to, your freedom is completely lost, especially, as I said, if you are attached to external and internal things, then because of that attachment, at the end of the day, it will ruin you. I mean, look at the story of some of the presidents and prime ministers, some of the celebrities, because they went too far and then intoxicated with power and money. And then at the end of the tenure, or even before that, many of them landed in jail. Right? So as the teacher Kungtang Tempedomi said, name and fame and respect if you go after name and fame and respect, it is really like climbing a branchless tall tree. The higher you climb, the greater is the risk to fall down and die. Why people climb? Because if there are many people who say, oh, he's such a good climber, he looks like a monkey, you know, then you get puffed up and climb higher and higher. Then if you fall, you will die. Whereas those of us who just remain on the ground, there's no risk for us to fall down, right? So, you know, what I'm saying may look backward, because for many people, they think it's important to perform all the daredevil acts, right? I'm not against all these activities, but what I'm saying is I think it is important for us to realize what is the most important feature of human being. For me, and I think this is true to the Buddha's teaching also, for me, the most important feature or quality of human being is not his or her body, but his or her mind. And what these great teachers are teaching in Buddhism is explore the deepest secret of your mind and develop limitless quality and achieve the highest happiness, including Buddhahood. That is what they are saying. Now, ordinary people, we are not exploring. We are even not scratching the surface of our mind. We are simply using our body to reach the limit, the highest goal, or so forth. And as I said earlier, the body, the basis of the training which you're giving, when you talk about development of the body, that body, it has a limit. You cannot make much progress. Just like boiling water, if you boil, it will become hotter and hotter, then reach 100 degrees centigrade, right? Then after that, it will boils, and still if you continue to put it on fire, then what happens? It will not become hotter. It will become vapor and disappear. So that is the difference. There's the difference. So I think we should focus more. I'm not against physical exercise and things like that, but with physical training, there should be some limit, because the physical nature itself is such that it can be developed only to a limited state. Whereas in the case of the mind, it can be developed to a limitless state, right? Even the great scientist Einstein, he said he used his brain, I think 5% or 7%, something like that. And he said, if you're able to use even a little bit more percentage of the mind, you can perform all the miracles. He's not a Buddhist, but he is, based on his own great thinking power, he was able to clearly see the great advantage of training and developing the mind. He said, if you develop even even some percentage, you can perform miracles. But nobody is willing to do, because mind is something that is invisible, we can't see, we can't touch. So we human beings have this tendency to ignore everything that we cannot directly see, touch, smell. So we focus only on the 5 sensual objects. So that is the problem. So then we get stuck in the 5 sensual objects. Okay. So therefore it is important not to have attachment to external material facilities or to one's own body. Now, not having attachment to one's own body doesn't mean you should not take care of yourself. You can take care of your body, of course, for Dharma practice, right? Just like taking care of the boat or ship by which you want to cross the ocean, you have to take care of it. That doesn't mean that you should have obsession and attachment with that, right? So that way, your nose will be not led by other people, and you will be free, okay? And you can go wherever you want, all right? Even in my case, for example, right now, I had this small institute. So in a way, I'm not free. See, I've given my nose to some other. But relatively, I'm okay. Because in my life, I got some quite high offers. And I denied all of them. Because then I realized that way I will lose my freedom. I'll get some name and fame, but I lose my freedom. So now I realize I made very good decision, you know. So especially for a Dharma practitioner, it's important to really have that freedom. And there's one reason that monk's life is appreciated, because monk or nun doesn't have to look after family members, you know, things like that. There's one reason. Otherwise, if the monks and nuns after ordination also engage in too many personal activities, then their life is not so different from lay people, right? Okay. Now, if you get that independence, for example, by reducing that attachment, and then if you want to undertake genuine Dharma practice, then you need to know how to do that genuine Dharma practice. So therefore, in the next line says, you need to constantly exert yourself in gathering the two accumulations by embracing them with the preliminary, main, and concluding stages. So that means when you engage in genuine Dharma practice, the preparation should be good, the actual practice should be good, and the conclusion should be good. When it comes to doing some negative things like killing, then preparation should not be good. And then even if you actually kill somebody, then the conclusion should not be good. There should be regret. There should be recognition that I did something wrong. Then the result of that negative action will be much less destructive, right? Now, when it comes to doing good things, the motivation should be good, the preparation should be good, actual practice should be good, and then the conclusion should be good. There should be joy. That's why we have this practice called rejoicing in the 7 limb practices. So sometimes these practices are called, you know, the 3: preparation, actual, and conclusion. Sometimes we use the term 3 sublime practices. Same meaning. Even if you recite mantra Om Mani Padme Hum, you should not just say Om Mani Padme Hum. No, there should be some motivation why you do that recitation. Then when you actually recite, your mind should not be distracted. If possible, remember the meaning. Then at the conclusion, dedicate the virtue that you earned to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. Not for small things like, may I live long life, may I achieve success in business. Okay, so that is wrong. So the purpose should be the preparation. When we say preparation, it should be taking refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and cultivation Bodhichitta. That's the preparation. That means wish to protect sentient beings in the negative state of existence and aspire to achieve Buddhahood, to deliver them from that state, and then engage in listening, contemplation, and meditation. So first you should have this practice of taking refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and then the wish to benefit all sentient beings, that is Bodhichitta. And during the actual practice, then you should not be distracted. Not to get distracted is not easy because we have all our windows open. Your mouth is your window. You might end up saying things. Your ears are your window. You might see so many things. Your 2 noses, 2 ears, and also 2 nostrils. They're all open, you see. So you get smell, you hear sound, you see things, you know, right? Then you might get easily distracted. So therefore, it is important to ensure that you don't let your mind wander away from these doors. That's why one of the conditions for meditation is restraining the senses. So therefore, sometimes it is useful when you meditate, you face towards a wall, where you just see a plain wall and nothing attractive. Okay? So adopt whatever technique is useful to you so that you don't get distracted. You should simply follow your mind and then see everything like a dream, like an illusion. And of course, you know, what is your main meditation, subject of your main meditation? It differs from person to person, but let us say if you're, in this case, let us say your main meditation on shunyata, then first cultivate bodhicitta, take refuge, and then reflect on the ultimate reality of all phenomena. They are all like a dream and doesn't have independent inherent existence. So depending upon your own level, your own practice, you should engage in hearing, thinking, and meditation, and make sure that it is influenced with some understanding of shunyata or emptiness during the actual practice. And then at the end, whatever virtue you have accumulated, you should dedicate it to achieve Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Right? So therefore, the conclusion and the preparation basically is a process of accumulating merit, and the actual practice of developing wisdom, understanding emptiness is the accumulation of wisdom. So it is in this way that you accumulate both the merit and the wisdom. Okay? So that way, collection of the two merits will go together. And then the next line, he explains a little bit about what are these two accumulations. So in the next line, he first explains about the accumulation of merit. You need to turn your mind towards helping other beings with loving kindness and compassion, both directly and indirectly. As is said by Shantideva in his Bodhicharavatara, that in terms of your practice, your main practice should be always primarily thinking about well-being of others, be it through loving kindness, be it through compassion, whether it's directly or indirectly. Right? There's no need for you to make a show of what you're doing to other people. Unfortunately, sometimes, you know, when somebody requests you, or you can do something right in front of a public, then you do it for the benefit of other people. But when the situation is not like that, then you don't do anything to benefit other people. That is wrong. That is wrong. So whether other people know it or not know it, you should always think that whether my, you know, physical action, verbal, you know, action, mental thinking, whether they are benefiting other people or not, directly or indirectly. Right? And then if it is harming them, stop, refrain. If it is helping them, do it. So that includes the practice of loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta. Okay. So in short, whether it's accumulation of merit or accumulation of wisdom, at the end of the day, it should all go towards benefiting other sentient beings. Right? In other words, the reason that we are not able to develop that altruistic wish to benefit all sentient beings because you have this strong clinging to yourself. Out of oneself and others, you always first think about oneself. That's the problem. The greatest obstruction to development of bodhicitta is self-cherishing attitude. Now we need to think carefully that from countless eons, or at least in this life, we have been primarily practicing self-cherishing attitude. We have been primarily talking about I, me, and mine. Now with this wholehearted practice of self-cherishing attitude, if it is really beneficial, then by now we should have reached some really good level of happiness and peace. But we are not there. We are not there. Right? So with this realization, now should, instead of focusing primarily upon yourself, you should focus more on the rest of the sentient beings. It is not easy, of course, not easy. Not easy, but not easy does not mean it cannot be done. So you should weigh the pros and cons. Compare yourself to the rest of the sentient beings. When you talk about the rest of the sentient beings, it is just countless. When you talk about yourself, however important you think you are, you're just one person. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama gives this beautiful example, if somebody says that either you need to chop all your 9 fingers to save one, or chop one finger to save 9. So what will you choose? Obviously, you will say, okay, chop one of my finger to save the rest of the 9. So that is sensible. And that is not only sensible and beneficial for others, it's beneficial for you. The more you always think about yourself and forget others, the more you will suffer from loneliness, depression. Why so many people are suffering from loneliness today? Why so many people getting stressed and depressed and suffering from compassion fatigue? Right? Because the one major thing that is missing is loving kindness, compassion, Bodhichitta. I mentioned this earlier also, so no need to go into detail. So once your mind is, whatever activities you do, once that activity is influenced by that wish to help them, whether it may be influenced by loving kindness or compassion or bodhicitta, then that is the way to directly, indirectly benefit other sentient beings. And that is also the way to reduce many of your personal physical and mental illnesses. I heard stories of few practitioners. One practitioner who I did not receive any teaching from him, but I saw him a number of times. And he said that he used to get sick almost all the time. Then he decided that this must be a very negative result of my karma. So now it's okay if I have to die, I will die. But I will now work very hard to purify myself, do Dharma practice. And he did very rigorous practice continuously. And since then, he never got sick. And whether that happens or not is, of course, dependent on not just one factor, many factors, right? And we had, in the library itself, we had one person, one monk, senior monk. He used to do all these prayers to, help the sick people. One day we were having a dinner together. He passed away, I think now 4 years back. So he was already 80 at that time. So we were having dinner together. And then I said, Genla, you age-wise, you are quite high, but I never saw you sick. Then he said, no, I never got sick in my whole life. Never even got a cold or flu. So I really thought, this, because he's not somebody going out and doing yoga and physical exercise and all those things. I'm not saying you don't need this, it's good, you have this, but in his case, I don't think he's doing any of these things. But he's doing all his prayers and pujas to help others and things like that. Very nice monk. So then I thought, this is maybe because of your practice. So all these things are possible, you see. Now, take the example of Milarepa, living naked in high snow mountains. If we try to do something like that, we'll die on the very first day, probably. So it is dependent on your past life's karma, your dedication, so many things. So what I'm saying is, things are possible to cure illness, sickness, and things like that. And unfortunately, these days, everybody is so rushed. This morning, I was just getting some glimpse of some of the texts composed by Gamboba, and I was kind of completely mesmerized. All the techniques for doing this, doing that, everything is there in the text. So it's only the shortage of people who sincerely practice, but all the instructions are there in all these scriptures. Right? Okay. So you should really be somebody who should, as much as possible, you should try to be something like a mother who has only one little child, cute little child. When that mother has that only little cute child, the mother will almost all the time think only about this little cute child. So something like that. It's not easy, as I said, it's not easy, but at least we should really think about all other sentient beings as your mother or as your children, whatever is comfortable. Right? Because there is nobody who doesn't want happiness. There's nobody who doesn't want to remove suffering. But there are so many, millions of suffering because of ignorance. What they want and what they practice is completely contradictory. Therefore, we continue to suffer. And everybody is running towards this ordinary, worldly way of getting money and things like that, ha, he, who, and then like that, Then at the end, everybody is like get tired, depressed, lonely, and how many different types of illnesses are there in the world today. So these are primarily our own doing, not necessarily in the past life, even in this life. Many of these illnesses that we are confronting today are a result of our misadventure. So we can, if we make effort, develop some, understanding, we can change that course. We can reduce the negative emotions and problems. So therefore, one of the primary practice of the Mahayana teaching is development of loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta. However, just by developing these qualities on the side of the method, on the category of the skillful method, like loving kindness and compassion and bodhicitta, they will help you only to reduce the actual manifestation of negative emotions. But they are not a direct counterforce to remove ignorance. As I said earlier, ignorance means misconception of reality. Misconception of reality cannot be uprooted just by developing a good mind, even like bodhicitta. So therefore, direct counterforce against that is development of wisdom. So therefore, in the next line, it speaks about the need to develop that wisdom. You need to avoid letting phenomena stray into concrete materiality by means of discriminating knowledge and understanding. That means you should develop your wisdom, you should develop your understanding, you should develop your realization, and through that way, you should be able to understand all phenomena, the ultimate nature of all phenomena, so that you do not, let yourself run after the science of having inherent independent existence. The science here means the sign of things having inherent independent existence, even though things do not have inherent independent existence, but they appear to us, they seem to us having inherent independent existence. That's how we get the problem. For example, if you, from a distance, if you're very thirsty, let us say you are moving in the desert and you are very thirsty, then from a distance you see mirage, right? That mirage appears to you from a distance water, but it's not water. The closer you approach, the more you will realize there's no water, but it is just reflection of this, the heat and the sand is a mirage. You won't get water. So like that, things appear to us as having inherent independent existence. For example, I'll give you a concrete example. If you buy a new house, thinking that, especially if you really manage to move into a new house, then for the first few days, you will think that, okay, I'm so lucky, I really got this beautiful house, such a vintage, location, flowers all around, green grasses all around, not much crowd and all those things. So you will almost see that house existing independently, inherently. But the truth is, very soon you will start seeing the shortcomings of that house, right? Then you want to move to some other place. And then for first few days, I call that honeymoon period. There's a honeymoon period for everything, whether it's marriage or buying a house and things like that. For the first few days, because of your ignorance, you're not able to see everything. Then gradually you will see its limitation, its real nature. So the point is, if you develop this wrong attitude, this misconception of reality, then you will develop excessive attachment and excessive hatred. When you, with regard to your enemy, you will not only see your enemy as enemy, but you will see your enemy as 100% horrible, 100% negative, outright negative, no room for dialogue, no room for negotiation. That enemy must be destroyed by nuclear bomb. That's what we are doing. But that is not true. That enemy is 100% negative. Maybe very negative, but not 100% negative. The same enemy is praised by many of his relatives, friends, or people who follow them. So some good elements, some bad elements. But when we don't have that complete understanding, then we see what we don't like an enemy, as 100% negative, incorrigible. Then when you like somebody, like your friends, relatives, husband, wife, and so forth, then you not only see them good, but you tend to see them, wow, my wife is so good, 100% good, without any fault. My brother is so good, 100%. Then gradually, of course, you will see whether it's 100% good or bad. Very soon you will see. Then you get shocked, you see. So we get shocked all the time because we never see the reality properly and exaggerate or denigrate the object. Then we fall into either the extreme of permanence or extreme of nihilism, right? So that's the problem. So that's why it is important to develop that wisdom, understanding, emptiness, which directly counters that misconception of reality and removes the very seed and very imprint of those negative emotions. So this is the development of wisdom. So once you're able to develop that, then it will, dethrone your ignorance and self-cherishing attitude, especially ignorance, right? Then you will not develop that arrogance towards your practice. Normally, if I know a little bit of Dharma, I get arrogant. I get a little bit money, I get arrogant. I get a little bit higher post, I get arrogant, right? But when you develop that understanding, where you are able to clearly see the nature of all phenomena having nothing, no independent existence, like an illusion, like a dream, then nothing to hold on to. And with that understanding, even if you practice, for example, giving, then you don't see the object to whom you practice giving having independent existence. And the gift that you are giving also has no independent existence. And your act of giving also has no independent existence. So you don't cling to anything. So you are free. When you don't cling anything, then you are free. Just like the bird which flies in the space, empty space. The bird travels through that space many times, but the bird never plans to make a nestle or make a nest in the space. Have you seen a bird trying to build a nest in the empty space? No. So they don't develop any grasping. So that is why the Buddha said, somebody asked, what is the best example that you can give with this meaning of emptiness? Then Buddha said, it's like space. And the bird, because it has no grasping, nobody develops that grasping in the space, right? So therefore they are free. Space is free, not only that particular bird, but for everybody, space is free. Now the stupid human beings are even try to conquer the space and own it. Right? Because anything that is physical, material, restricted, within that limit, you won't get much freedom. So if you really want to freedom, then that freedom comes not by holding, but by letting go. That is the point. Okay? So wisdom, that is wisdom. So that now here when we use these three words, wisdom, understanding, realization, he uses three words here. So wisdom primarily in this context refers to the wisdom that is developed through listening. Then understanding here refers to that understanding which is developed primarily through contemplation, through thinking. And then the realization that comes through meditation. So you should develop a proper understanding of lack of inherent existence of all phenomena through this threefold process of listening, thinking, and meditation. So that is what he's saying. You need to avoid letting phenomena stray into concrete materiality. Straying into concrete materiality means that not only your mind should be able to completely get lost into the state of emptiness during the meditative state, but also during the post-meditative state. Do not let your mind stray into that concrete materiality, means seeing things as having inherent existence. This is a very important point, because ordinarily when you are, sitting alone, or when you're in that meditative state, it is very possible that you may be able to focus on that shunyata, not getting much distracted, at least because of that surrounding. Not you're not in a city or in a town or in a crowd, things like that. But as soon as you get up from that meditation seat and during the post-meditative state, when you mix with people, go into the crowd, you see everything attractive, disgusting, whatever, right? Then you will develop all your likes and dislikes. Yeah, this is so beautiful, grasping. This is, I don't like, hatred, and things like that. So that is how you slip your mind into that materiality. So there's the meaning. So there are many ways of interpreting this, okay? So these are 10 things that you need. That means first you enter into Dharma, make a proper planning, and then finally you should undertake a harmonious practice through the combination of method and wisdom. So in order to do your Dharma practice, there are some really, really essential factors which all can be safely included into these 10 practices, which is necessary. Then next it says that if you want to do Dharma practice, then it's important for you to know what to discard and what to adopt. But what is it that you should resort to? What is it that you should renounce? So out of this, he explains first the 10 practices, 10 necessary 10 things which you should keep, or 10 things which you should resort to. Out of which the first is keep to a sublime master who is realized and compassionate. So resort to or rely upon a sublime Lama who has that realization and who also has that compassion. Now the Lama is the one who is your first guide to your spiritual practice. So therefore you must rely upon a qualified teacher. It's not enough to really have somebody to show other people that this is my Lama. It's not enough to have a monk wearing a monk's clothes and then make a show of it to other people saying, this is my Lama, very proudly. I've seen many people doing that. Okay. It's not enough. So the Lama must have the needed qualifications as prescribed in the Vinaya, monastic discipline, or in the Bodhisattva practice, or in the Tantric practice. In the monastic practice, the Lama should be somebody who has really good moral ethics and who knows all the needed monastic rituals, and who should have that compassion for sick people, and who is ready to help others through Dharma teaching or material gifts, and then giving timely teachings and so forth. And in the case of the Bodhisattva practice, that Lama should be somebody who is really well versed in the Mahayana teachings and who observes the Bodhisattva way of life. And in the case of the Tantric practice, the Lama should again be calm and peaceful, disciplined, and who is able to give fearlessness to others, and who sees all sentient beings as one's own child and things like that. So I'm just briefly explaining it. There are so many definitions or features that is needed for a Lama. So in this case, he's really summarizing all these needed qualifications by saying that the Lama should have minimum these things. A sublime Lama, not just Lama, but sublime good Lama should have two things, realization and compassion. Now, realization means the needed qualities for oneself. That means the Lama should have all the needed qualities to be able to guide other people, teach other people. Then compassion means that the Lama should have those qualities that would benefit others. So two things. So it's same like saying the method and wisdom, which we already discussed. Lama should have both. So in other words, he should have this understanding of emptiness with compassion. Rely on such a Lama. Because if the Lama doesn't have that knowledge and qualification, he will not be able to guide the student on the right path. And if he doesn't have that compassion, then most likely he will exploit that student. So these days we do hear teachers, Lamas, laundering money or having sex with their students in the name of Tantric practice. And then they would threaten some of the students by saying, if you don't do whatever I say, you will go to Vajra hell. And these are very, unfortunately, misleading people. We do have statements like that one should follow the Lama as the Lama says. That is not for everybody. And the Lama is also really like Vajradhara, who is highly, highly qualified, compassionate, and so forth. and the student also has all the necessary qualities, then all this is possible. But ordinarily, you can't say, And many people, unfortunately, I myself met some people who said, this is what my Lama did, this is what Lama said, I'm in big problem, what should I do? Then I answered by saying, okay, you use your brain. You use your brain. Buddha had given us the right to think for ourselves. And then I used to give them an example by saying, for example, sometimes you say you want to do whatever Lama says. It's not necessarily true. When it suits your whim, then you say, I'll do whatever Lama. When it doesn't suit your whim, then you don't do that. For example, if I used to give the example by saying, but if your Lama says, jump from the 9th floor and commit suicide, will you do that? I don't think so. So like that, you will not jump. Here you can use your common sense. So similarly, if the Lama gives an instruction or teaching which is contradictory to the main teaching, and which is contradictory even to your common sense understanding, then you should politely refuse to do that. Politely, as I'm saying. The other day I also explained, if the Lama or the teacher has been very kind to you in the beginning, of course, be grateful and remember that kindness. But that doesn't mean that you should tie your neck to that person and do all the wrong things because he has been kind at one point of the time. No. Now he's guiding you into the wrong direction, wrong path. So therefore, while you remember his kindness in the past, but this is wrong, so I'm not going to follow it. That much choice you have, right? So get divorced from the Lama. Similar like you get divorced from a husband and wife who may be very good in the beginning, but later on things doesn't work, you get divorced. It's common sense, you see. Right? Now, if you found such a sublime teacher and then enter into the Dharma practice, and while you do Dharma practice, then the place where you're going to do Dharma practice should also be congenial, suitable to you. So this is what is explained in the next line. Keep to a hermitage that is remote, pleasant, and blessed. Especially when you engage in listening and thinking in the beginning, or even when you are trying to sustain your meditative practices, then the place where you're going to do that listening, thinking, and meditation should be a place of solitude. Instead of remaining in a place of solitude, if you stay in a place which is full of commotion, hustle and bustle, very close to the city and town, and where you need to frequently associate with the ordinary people, then you will relapse back into your ordinary way of life and thinking, and you will not be able to proceed with your Dharma practice. Right? If you look at this Tibetan word Gomba, for monastery, we use the word Gomba. Gomba means isolated place. Nowadays, most of the Gombas are in big cities and towns to get more money. It's easier to get money. So it's really not Gomba in the true sense of the term. Right? In ancient times, you see many of these Gombas high in the mountain or at least very far from the city and town. And then the place itself is so congenial, so good for practice. Even people who live in big cities, they can go to a little bit, remote to that place of solitude. They really find peace. Now your Gomba or temple is your next door neighbor who is also living in the same crowd. So it's not easy, not easy. So that, anyway, for your practice, you should as much as possible remain in solitude. Even if you are living in big city, of course, in your own room, you can remain in, as much as possible, remain in solitude. That's possible. Solitude means physical isolation as well as mental isolation. And not only that place should be remote, but pleasant. Pleasant means it should not be a place which is isolated, but full of enemies, thieves, robbers, ferocious animals, and harmful insects. That's not a pleasant place. Or on a cliff where there's a risk of you're falling down. But it should be a place where just by going into that place, you feel that atmosphere of joy and happiness. So that is in a beautiful forest, or where all these disturbances are not there, where there is not much noise. Okay. Pleasant and blessed. Now, blessed means, in general, if you move into an ordinary, remote nature, which may be beautiful, a lot of flowers, nice rivers flowing, and not much disturbance, but that is not necessarily blessed. Because in that place, then the blessing of the place is not there. Place is simply beautiful. When we go to Bodh Gaya, although it's very crowded, but when you go to Bodh Gaya, you get a special feeling. Because that is a place where Buddha got enlightenment, blessed by Buddha and many, many other great teachers who visited and meditated there. You can feel it. Similarly, if you go to a place where there has been a lot of killing, you can feel that vibration also, negative vibration also. Then you can't, will be very difficult for you to meditate. Once we traveled with His Holiness to Moscow, and His Holiness said that his regular morning meditation was not very clear. His mind was not very clear. And he said, it really looks like a lot of killings have been done here. His Holiness could feel that. Later on, another teacher, Kamtul Rinpoche, many of you know Kamtul Rinpoche, who passed away some years back. He also had the same experience there. So the place can be a place which has negative vibration and positive vibration. So if you are able to go to a place where Milarepa meditated, or Buddha meditated, or whoever, if it is a blessed place, then there will be less harm. Because many of these places are really blessed. If you read the life history of Milarepa, when he first moved into that mountain, he found that place very rough. He was teased and he was, tormented by the continuous visit of some of the ghosts and evil spirits around. He had to fight with them, give teachings, and so many things. And then gradually he was able to transform them, and it became a blessed place. So many of the subsequent teachers visited Milarepa's place and meditated there. Okay, so that is the meaning of a blessed place. So when you find such an isolated place, then of course remaining alone is very important. But sometimes if you are too isolated, where you cannot consult other Dharma friends, for example, when you meditate or when you study something, if you are unable to understand the meaning, if you are unable to know how to proceed further in meditation, then it's good to have some spiritual practitioners nearby to consult to. And similarly also, all these are common sense things. Similarly also, even for your food and clothing, if you're too isolated from the city or from the town where you get your food and clothing, then that is also, I think, not so good for your practice, because you go, so high up in the mountain, and just coming down to the city or the town to get your food, you spend almost half day or one day, So you, on the one hand, you are saying you have no time, but to practice, now you waste your time. Right? So in all these cases, one should really use one's common sense. Oh yeah. So I think time is over. We stop here.
Thank you so much, Geshe-la. Are there any questions?
I hope there is no question. Because I want to go to play basketball. I'm joking. Okay, there is one yellow. Clara Patricia.
Thank you, Geshe-la, for the teachings. I would like to know, I would like to ask you if you can explain a little more about the secret of the mind.
What?
Secret of the mind?
Secret.
Yes.
Secret of the mind.
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
In Shantideva's Bodhichitta Avtara, when he uses, there is a stanza which says, unless you know the secret nature of your mind, even if you aspire happiness, even if you wish to remove suffering, you will end up wandering aimlessly. So in that case, in that commentary, the word secret basically has been interpreted as the emptiness nature of the mind. As we already discussed, it is highly, highly important to understand the emptiness nature of all phenomena, especially the emptiness nature of yourself, especially the emptiness nature of the mind. Because everything that is outside of us is, in a way, creation of the mind, right? And if you look at the mind, in some of the Buddhist philosophical schools also, they talk about lack of independent or inherent existence of all external phenomena, but they say the mind has independent existence. So this is again refuted by the Prasangika Madhyamika school, saying that all phenomena, including mind, doesn't have inherent independent existence. Right? So therefore, in many of the sutras, they say that the ultimate nature of the mind is clear light. And the stains and defilements are temporary. So that means the negative emotions, however overwhelming they are right now, they are not in the fundamental nature of the mind. They can be removed. So that is really good news. Contrarily, if mind is existing inherently, independently, then you cannot do anything. It is the way it is. All the negative emotions that is there also exist independently with the mind. You cannot do anything. But that's not the case. Negative emotions are temporary, right? So they can be easily removed by developing the counter forces. So therefore, the most important thing is understand your ultimate secret nature of the mind in that sense. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Land.
Yes. Hello, thank you for taking my question. I want to go back to the accumulation, the preliminary, main, and concluding stages.
Yeah.
And you mentioned rejoicing. And what are the different ways we can welcome this joy in our practice?
So I mentioned that preliminary practice includes taking refuge and cultivation of conventional bodhicitta. And actual practice, let us say, but it depends from person to person, whatever you are practicing. The actual practice may be many different things. But let us say here in this case, the preparation is cultivation of the taking refuge and cultivation of conventional bodhicitta. The actual is development of the ultimate bodhicitta, which is development of wisdom, understanding, emptiness. And then at the conclusion, you should dedicate all the virtue that you earned to make you achieve Buddhahood to benefit all sentient beings. Okay. So in this case, it doesn't directly mention about rejoicing, right? But I think it can be included in the concluding part, because when you realize that you have done the preparation, you have practiced the actual practice properly, then the conclusion, you should rejoice, you should dedicate, you should rejoice. Now rejoice means rejoicing at your own good deeds, rejoicing at the good deeds of others. And one very special thing with the rejoicing is, sometimes, if you know how to do practice, sometimes you can do many of these practices very easily. Rejoicing is one thing. So therefore, there is a stanza which says, Kepe digwa chi yang yang, lumbu digwa yang yang chi, which means the negativity is committed by a learned person, even though it may be heavy, but its result will be light, because it's committed by a learned person, meaning that he knows how to purify it. Lumbu digwa yanyachi, that means a stupid or a person who is not intelligent even commits a small negative deed, but the fruit will be very heavy, because that person doesn't know how to purify it. And to prove this point, he gives an example. It is found in Tsongkhapa's Great Stages of the Path, where he gives the example of, let us say, a ball of iron. If that ball of iron, if you flatten it and put it on the surface of the lake or ocean, it will not sink. So the negative deeds done by a learned person is like that, you see. But the same the flat iron, if you make it a ball and then put it on the surface of the river or the ocean, it'll immediately go down, right? So therefore, the point that I'm making is, if you know how to practice like a learned person, then simply by rejoicing, you can just recline on your sofa and also sip a nice cup of coffee, and then see some other people doing good things and rejoice. Wow, she's doing that practice so good. Wow, he's doing this practice so good. You rejoice, you get the same benefit. Instead of becoming jealous, rejoice. It's so important, something important, very easy to practice. And I remember His Holiness the Dalai Lama saying many times that you should especially rejoice the good deeds done by people who are in a very low spiritual realization, who are illiterate, who doesn't know much. But even among ordinary people, you see so many people doing good things, you see. Then you should particularly rejoice. These people, they are not educated, they don't know much about Dharma, but they are doing such a wonderful thing, even if it is a small thing, appreciate that. Then the Buddhas or Bodhisattvas, if they do, it is good, of course, you rejoice, but not so surprising, because they've already reached that pedestal, So, like that, okay? Yeah. Okay, who next?
Banuji, could you please unmute?
Thank you, Kundrila. thank you, Geshe-la, for your teachings. You mentioned earlier that it's important to not engage too much time in worldly activities or work, and also spend time in Dharma practice. But is it possible that you can also treat your work like a Dharma practice?
Yes, true. Yeah, this is a good question. But you see, here what we are discussing about those people who are genuinely, completely committed to Dharma practice. Okay, so in that case, you need that total dedication, not to engage other worldly activities and completely, because at the end of the day, the demarcation whether you have really reached high spiritual practices, determined by how much you have purified your mind. That you cannot do just by engaging in worldly activities and giving money, which is very good, but not that. Then let me tell you this story. Buddha himself, his wife, I forgot her name now. Anyway, so Buddha, when his wife was a social worker, always helping children, helping groups of people, always working. Then the Buddha thought that, my wife is so good, she is so compassionate and helping everybody, doing all these social activities. But unless she purifies her mind from the intense negative emotions, she will not be free herself completely from the bondage of negative emotions. So that is the reason why we talk so much about, leaving the social activities aside and purifying oneself. That's the thing. But ordinarily speaking, we can't do that. Very difficult for many of us because we are already more or less stuck in the in the worldly life, right? So therefore, as I said the other day, His Holiness' instruction is very, very practical. 50-50. 50% for this life, like social activities for others, for yourself, and then 50 for pure spiritual practice. Okay? Now here, one thing that you should really know is, when we go into the darkness, we need flashlight or torch, right? But if you keep on using that torch and flashlight and never recharge it, very soon there will be no light left, right? Yes. So in order to continuously use that light to help others or to help yourself, you need to repeatedly charge the battery of that torch, that flashlight. So similarly, even when you engage in social service and other activities, which is really good, which is directly benefiting, but at the same time, you should always recharge yourself with your spiritual practice continuously. The more you do that, the more you will be capable of helping others also. Because the best way of helping others is not just, distributing money and things like that, which is of course very handy, very important, but to help them stand on their own feet by giving good education, good guidance. Okay.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you.
Judy, could you please unmute?
Geshe-la, my question is on wisdom. Thinking about this today, and it boggles my mind. So the question is, the mind that is aware of itself, meditating on emptiness, is that a special characteristic of direct perception, or is that still conceptual or inferential perception? Like, is there still some distance that exists between the subject, that's the mind, and the object, the emptiness is meditating on? And also, the second part of my question, if there's distance, how do you reduce that distance? Because it boggles my mind.
It's not only with reference to mind, but with any of our practice. It is to go through the threefold process of listening, then contemplation, then meditation. Okay. And so therefore in the initial stage you do the listening, thinking, and then also using the inferential cognition. You get a good sense of it. Then you meditate, and the deeper and deeper meditation becomes, you come closer and closer to the to shunyata, right? And then a point, it's not only with the mind. When you meditate on any emptiness of any phenomena, when you really focus on that emptiness,
no sound. Oh.
I think Geshe is frozen.
Yeah,
or is it?
no sound.
Yes.
I didn't hear
wait.
that.
Let's wait when Geshe comes back.
Cut off. Geshe got cut off.
Let's go ahead and see.
Yeah, where Wi-Fi is not.
okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, Geshe, welcome back.
So what I was saying was, the meditation that you do on the ultimate nature of mind is, you should see the source of your mind, from where it came from. Okay? And how it is existing right now. And where it is going to in the future. Or similarly, whether the mind is any shape, any color, and things like that. So when you search in this way, then you will find only the cognitive luminous nature of the mind and nothing. Completely free from having inherent independent existence. So when you search and see, like any other thing, when you search and see whether the mind has independent existence or not, like finding its origin, present state, and where it is going, things like that, you won't find anything. So this mere negation of independent existence is called emptiness. With the understanding and realization of emptiness, you don't affirm anything. You don't establish anything. There's nothing to posit, nothing to dispel. It's simply seeing what is correct as correct. So therefore, that emptiness is called non-affirming negative. When you search, I hope you search. For example, about myself. I search where is Geshe Lhakdor. I search myself from the top of my head down to the sole of feet. And I'll encounter my parts and things like that. Apart from that, I don't see anything called, Lhakdor in a concrete sense. So this mere essence of independent existence is called emptiness. Okay.
So this thing about, I hear a lot, there's distance between subject and object. It's conceptual perception, but there's no distance.
Exactly.
Then you mean, but that distance, like, how does that connect with what you said about non-affirming negative? It doesn't exist. But just realizing it doesn't exist means there's suddenly no distance. That part I don't get. I don't understand.
No. The point is, to our ordinary mind, we feel there is this distance.
Yeah.
There's an object to be perceived, and then there's a mind perceiving it, and things like that. That's the ordinary way of seeing it. We call it duality. Okay. But when you meditate on the ultimate nature of the mind, right, then there is no independently existing object. You simply perceive your mind's ultimate nature, which is also, like, as I said, space. So there is no particular, object to be confirmed or established. The best example I give you is like putting water in water. If you bring half mug of water and put it in another half of water, then you cannot distinguish between the two, which was the first water and which is the second water. So like that, when your mind focuses, merges on its ultimate nature, which is like of inherent existence, right? Then your mind completely gets merged into that state of shunyata. There is no duality then.
Okay. So when there's no duality, is that what they mean when they say the mind is aware of itself? That's what it means? There's no duality?
That is ordinary case. In ordinary case, the mind can be, we call it something like self-perception. The mind will be aware of itself. So there is a duality at that state. But when you completely...
But not in ultimate...
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Oh, okay.
And also another thing that you need to know is when we talk about the mind, understanding mind, it is basically not just one concrete mind understanding itself. Okay, the mind has mind in terms of how it perceives the object. It can be termed in many ways. For example, the mind is seeing a blue color, the mind is seeing a human being, the mind is seeing a cow, right? So depending upon the varieties of perception, you can call it having duality, having non-duality, and things like that. So it is like the mind is really like, in terms of its process of perception, it looks like many, but actually one mind, okay? So it is really like the example that given is like a monkey. One monkey put in a long house which has many windows. And then, you lock the door. And then the monkey, which is desperate to come out, he runs up and, peeps from one window, then runs down and peeps from another window. Then the person outside who is not familiar how many monkeys are there, he might start thinking, oh, it looks like in this house there are many monkeys. But there is only one monkey.
So that's like the mind can perform, it's like saying the mind can perform many functions.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you, Geshe-la. So wonderful.
Yeah.
Geshe-la, we have so many more questions. We have 2 hands up and 2 questions in the chat.
Yes.
I think nobody wants Geshe-la to enjoy basketball.
Yeah.
So
No, I give up. It's too dark now.
It's too dark already,
Yeah,
Geshe-la.
yeah.
Geshe-la, shall we take one on more
Yeah,
two
yeah, yeah.
questions?
Sure.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
The next would be Sahili. Sahili, can you please unmute?
Yeah. Unmute.
Sahili,
Unmute.
unmute.
Pranam Geshe-la.
Pranam.
So my question, I didn't understand one thing from today's teaching. You said that if you go after name, fame, and respect, it's like climbing a tree of endless branches. And you explained that thing also. I understand about the name and fame thing, but in terms of respect, in school or in human rights documents, we always focuses on the terms respect, integrity or dignity, and in the school also repeatedly in our prayer session we teach us that, our teachers teach us that go for that thing, respect and all. So how I really don't understand how respect
No. Here
Okay.
we have this very good statement which says respect is not demanded, but it is earned. Okay. So if you really want to respect, you don't have to demand, ask for respect, but do your duty, carry out your responsibility, be compassionate, be loving. You will get it. Even if you don't want, you'll get respect. Now, ordinarily, people don't do what they should be doing, and instead they demand respect from their students. They demand respect from others, especially in the dictatorial system. They do all the nasty, stupid things, and then demand respect, right? So even if people seem to be, giving respect, it's only external, only lip service. Deep down, they hate that person. So therefore, as a practitioner, you should not, demand anything. Don't have attachment for respect, for name, for fame, just do your job and everything will come. That's the point.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Tupten Jamshop.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just have one small question coming from the previous questions that we've had today about duality and non-duality. You said that the mind, the ultimate nature of the mind is also empty of inherent existence, and without a subject there is no object, and without an object there is no subject. Essentially. So the key point here is that the moment we start meditating on the empty nature of the mind itself, suddenly we lose our base. We suddenly lose as to what are we trying to transform, what are we trying to change. Suddenly it takes us towards nihilism, and it's like there is no anchor anymore to hold us. My limited question is, in such a scenario, what is the anchor that we hold on to continue our spiritual practice? Because suddenly we find if there is nothing, then what to do?
So for a practitioner, you don't need anything to hold on to. You don't need any grasping, right?
Geshe-la, that's right. But our senses are always grasping at something.
No. The point is, yes, you're absolutely right. There is the subjective mind, which is focusing on emptiness or the ultimate nature of the mind itself. So that mind is the subjective, in caution. And then the object there is emptiness. So there is a subject and object.
Yes.
But that meditator practitioner, when his mind is completely lost into that state, in the state of emptiness, he has no sense of subject-object duality. In general, there is, of course. Okay. But when he is lost into that, he doesn't have that sense. No, we don't have to give example of just emptiness. We can give example of something like, let us say, if you are watching a gripping movie, Okay. Say 2 hours long or 3 hours long, you really like it, you're completely lost into it. Then your naughty kids, running up and down in front of you, shouting things like that. But still you hardly notice it.
Yes.
That doesn't mean your naughty kids are not there, they're not running, they're not shouting, they are doing all this, but because your mind is completely lost into that gripping movie, you don't have sense of that. So that's one point. The second point is, what is the benefit of it? Having your mind lost into that ultimate nature, what is the benefit of it? And then ordinary people, you're right, we feel threatened that, okay, now there is nothing, we get frightened because we are so used with grasping something, holding on.
Yes.
And then when we meditate, we develop fear. Not only very ordinary people, even in the case of some meditators, there are stories of meditating shunyata, and then gradually they don't have sense of themselves. They get so frightened, they have to just hold on to their cloth and shake to make sure that they're still there and alive.
Yes.
Right. This fear comes because we are so used with this concrete material things. We are so used with holding on to things. Okay. Now the purpose of this meditation on emptiness without holding on to things is that when you go into that state of emptiness, then you have no object to develop attachment, no object to develop hatred. And if there's no object, no attachment, no hatred, no jealousy, no negative emotions, why will there be suffering? That's the purpose. The more we grasp onto things, the more we get problem. That's the ordinary way. The more you get money, ordinarily we think the more you get money, then you get power of saying that now I'm richer, I will be happier. But is there guarantee that you will be happier?
No.
There is nothing that comes value free. As Nagarjuna very clearly said in his letter to the friend, that he gives this story of a Naga king who has, let us say, 10 heads. Naga basically means you can consider a snake. So the Naga king has 10 heads. The ordinary snakes, they have only 1 head. So from ordinary parlance, the Naga king really looks majestic and grand. He has 10 heads. The others have only 1 head. But the problem is, the more head you have, the more you are vulnerable to heart and illness. Today, the right head is okay, left head is hard. The right and left head is okay, the middle heart is sick,
Yes.
The more you have, the more you get problems. If you have like 10 brothers, 10 sisters, ordinarily it's good. Oh, I'm very big family, 10 brothers, 10 sisters. But the thing is, today your brother is sick, sister is well, sister is sick, brother is well. Nothing comes value free. So that is the point. The more you develop grasping, the more you get problems, difficulties.
So Geshe-la, is it right to understand that if we have any kind of fear during this process of meditation,
yes,
we should also see that fear or that emotion as empty in nature?
No, not like that. Not like that. Let me cite this stanza which says, those who misperceive emptiness, those people with small intelligence who misperceive emptiness, those with small intelligence, those who misperceive emptiness, then those with small intelligence will be lost. So that's the thing. Those who misperceive emptiness, then people with small intelligence will be lost. The meaning is that now the most important thing, I'm glad that you asked this question. The most important thing here is emptiness is not equal to nothingness. Because if emptiness is equal to nothingness, then you have every reason to have fear. Okay? Emptiness is not equal to nothingness.
Yes.
The other side of emptiness is interdependent origination.
Yes.
Meaning that things are there. Causes are there, conditions are there. If you do good, you will have good. If you do bad, you will have bad. So therefore, in order to develop very good understanding of shunyata, you should start from the side of how interdependent origination functions.
Very right.
Once you understand that, then you will be able to see that yes, things are there, but they don't have independent existence. So balancing that is very important.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Geshe-la. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Geshe-la, there are 2 more questions in the chat, but I think maybe we can keep them for tomorrow. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
Yes.
You are the boss, so whatever.
No. Geshe-la is the boss. But we don't want to keep Geshe-la too long. So
Okay,
it's not getting too dark.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Geshe-la. I think Geshe-la gave us plenty of, food for thought.
Okay, thank you.
May the precious Supreme Bodhichitta, not yet born, arise, and may that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. In a land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good, all-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso. Please remain until samsara ends. Thank you so much, Geshe-la. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Those of you who have more questions or have written your questions to me or to to Pamela, please keep your questions. I also wrote them down, but please keep them for tomorrow, and I promise you, you will be the first ones. Okay? Thank you so much. Have a good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Thank you. Bye-bye.